He has said Ukraine and its partners are ready for peace talks.
U.S. pushes to extend a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon as it holds talks in Washington between the two sides despite Israeli strikes. Officials describe the talks as productive, with further meetings expected.
Hundreds of Israeli nationalists marched through Jerusalem's Old City during the annual Jerusalem Day event, with some chanting anti-Arab slogans as many Palestinian residents stay indoors.
Iraqi lawmakers approve a new government led by Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi, who vows to ensure a state monopoly on weapons amid growing U.S. pressure to dismantle Tehran-backed groups.
UN mission says gang violence in suburbs of Haiti's capital leaves at least 78 people dead and 66 injured since May 9th. Clashes also claim civilian lives, including women and a young girl. The ongoing violence has displaced 5,300 people. The U.S. President Donald Trump is set to focus on trade and Tehran on the final day of his China visit.
And Trump is aiming to secure business agreements across sectors including agriculture, aviation and AI. But the U.S. president will also be seeking geopolitical progress, and particularly on the West Asia conflict.
Well, on Friday, Chinese President Xi Jinping will host Trump at the Zhongnanhai, the leadership compound of the ruling Communist Party in Beijing. Now, only a handful of American leaders have ever stepped into this highly guarded headquarters.
Richard Nixon met with Mao Zedong at the compound in 1972, the first time an American president has visited China, and President George W. Bush and Barack Obama are the other two American leaders to have visited the compound.
Now, two leaders are also expected to hold a team meeting and diplomatic lunch before Trump departs for Washington. Well, trade discussions are expected to dominate Friday's agenda. And Trump is accompanied by several top U.S. business leaders, including Tesla CEO Elon Musk and NVIDIA chief Jensen Huang.
I just want to say on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them. We asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf.
In his Fox News interview, Trump appeared to preview one of the major deals, claiming China had agreed to purchase 200 big Boeing aircraft. However, shares of Boeing slipped after the comments, suggesting investors had expected a larger commitment from Beijing.
Well, Trump was given a massive red carpet welcome on his arrival and met President Xi at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. But Thursday's superpower summit was dominated by Xi Jinping's strong warnings on Taiwan. Well, Xi described the U.S.-China relationship as the world's most consequential.
And he also warned that Taiwan remains the most important issue in China-U.S. relations and could trigger conflict if handled improperly.
Well, Trump avoided commenting publicly on Taiwan on Thursday, but U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later told CNBC that the president would speak further on the matter in the coming days.
Well, Trump did address another major flashpoint, however, the conflict involving Iran. Speaking to Fox News, Trump said that she had effectively assured him that China was not preparing to provide military assistance to Tehran. Listen to this.
We discussed it. I mean, when you say support, they're not fighting a war with us or anything.
No.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly. But at the same time, he said, you know, they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that. He'd like to see Hormuz Strait opened. I said, well, we didn't stop it. They did it, and then we stopped them. You know, sort of interesting. He joked. He said, you know, it's sort of, if they stopped it, then you stopped them. But they'd like to see it opened.
Now, Trump also reacted to Xi's reference to the Thucydides trap, the theory that a war becomes more likely when a rising power challenges an established one.
In a Truth Social post early Friday, Trump said that Xi had very elegantly referred to the United States as perhaps being a declining nation. Trump claimed that Xi was referring to America before his return to office and not the current administration. Trump wrote, and I'm quoting him here, 2 years ago, we were in fact a nation in decline. Now the United States is the hottest nation anywhere in the world, and hopefully our relationship with China will be stronger and better than ever before.
All right, to discuss more, we're now being joined live by Dr. Jian Chong, who is a political scientist at the National University of Singapore and a non-resident scholar with Carnage China, and he's joining us live from Singapore. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. And now let's begin with the meeting between China and Xi Jinping and, of course, Trump. You know, a lot of people are anticipating hugs and handshakes. Although it seemed almost like, you know, the meeting, would you judge that? And of course, this is the final day and there's going to be a tea ceremony. How do you look at the talks going forward when we don't really have any conclusive deals as of now?
Right. So this summit so far has been a lot about tone. So the U.S. side has been fairly conciliatory. The PRC side has sort of put forward this idea that the two should work together, but that there are what they would see as sort of potential things that could upset that relationship. They point to Taiwan as being that. But again, there have been no concrete deals. I mean, from the readouts, there seemed to be some movement in terms of agricultural products, in terms of PRC investment in the U.S. And also the U.S. has brought up fentanyl. But, you know, there's been no sort of public announcement of a big deal. So what we can probably read from this is that things are probably moving along, but, you know, we're not at a point where the two have reached agreement.
Absolutely, Dr. Chong, and everyone around the world has been closely analyzing the pageantry and, you know, all the gestures and the warmth that was on display. But now also, I'm curious to know, how are you reading into this big headline that we're, you know, dealing with at this moment, that Trump has said that Chinese President Xi Jinping has in fact assured him that China will not supply military equipment to Iran?
So I would be curious to look into the details of this because it is technically true that since the conflict has started, the PRC has so held back, right? But we also know that the PRC has claimed with some truth that they've not provided military equipment to Russia as Russia persecutes its war with Ukraine. But what we also know from the Ukraine-Russia situation is that components, dual-use equipment have been supplied. So I guess it would mean looking more in depth as to what the PRC restrictions are with regard to Iran might be. So they may, you know, live up to the letter of what they've said, not formally, you know, transferring military equipment, but know-how, technology, information, components. I guess those could become, you know, areas of contention moving forward.
Absolutely, Dr. Chong. And another interesting aspect is, of course, that what we're hearing is just one aspect of what has come out, and the other is at what cost. Because if China has made this claim that it is not going to be supplying any or giving any military help to Iran, it would have had something, you know, some concessions would have also had to be made from the Washington side. And we understand Taiwan was big on the agenda, and China had already warned that anything, if it is not properly handled on the Taiwan issue, it could prove to be catastrophic. How are you reading into that?
So the Taiwan bit is actually interesting. In the lead up to the summit, the PRC had already been signaling that uh, the they wanted the Taiwan situation to be handled properly. They thought that too much U.S. support for Taiwan would be counterproductive, but they've not put forward a specific ask. So there could be things behind closed doors, but at least in public, right, there's not been anything clear that the PRC wants. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting about it is how the PRC has put front and center, including President Xi, put front and center the issue of Taiwan, which is something that they've always for a long time claim is internal. If it's such an internal issue, then you're looking at it in terms of major power relations, how the trajectory of U.S.-China ties. Then it also raises the question of how internal is Taiwan actually. So I think another angle on this is really how Beijing looks at Taiwan as a pretty tricky issue for themselves.
And that being said, I would really want your opinion on this, that, when we look at body language and the kind of talks that we have seen between Xi Jinping and Trump so far, what are the things that Trump really is looking for to get done? Like, for example, there are three topics largely. It's, of course, the trade deals, it's the Iran war, and it's, of course, Taiwan. Both the countries have been very, they haven't spoken a lot about it, and Trump has also been very careful regarding that. Iran, he's saying that, yes, China will not supply any weapons to Iran, as what he said, and trade, of course. So what, according to you, would be, who is at a greater position or a stronger position, and what is Trump really aiming for to get done before he leaves Beijing?
So with the delegation and the way the lead up has been done, it seems that Trump really sees this trip as a economics sort of trade trip. But the fact that we haven't seen any announcement yet, maybe there'll be some later on, suggests that, perhaps they're not quite there yet. I mean, despite Trump sort of showcasing the leadership of American enterprise. So that's what we're looking at. I mean, in terms of Taiwan and all that. So far, I mean, if you look at what Secretary of State Marco Rubio has put forward, there doesn't seem to be much movement there. So I suppose what we can take from this, if we take a step back, is that Beijing and Washington are fundamentally chasing different things from this summit. Washington is chasing economics and trade, and Beijing is chasing something far more political. So whether the two will have a sort of convergence at some point, we don't know. And there's also the whole Thucydides trap thing that Xi Jinping raised, which suggests that at the back of the PRC's minds, there's still U.S. PRC competition, that they have to worry about, and they also see the U.S. as a declining actor, regardless of what President Trump might be saying.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Chong, you've rightly mentioned that this is perhaps an economic trip for Washington, and it is pretty clear from the delegation, that has come from Washington's side. And we have these tech CEOs, and of course, we know what Washington wants from the trip, but I'm also curious to know for you to divulge in detail about these political things that China is expecting in return from Washington in this particular summit.
Right. So I mean, there's things that Beijing wants. I mean, I think getting the Strait of Hormuz open is important to them. They do import a lot of oil from the Middle East, including from Iran. So the current crisis has created a situation where their oil prices, their gas prices have increased. Helium, which is an important refining byproduct, is important for semiconductor production. That's become an issue as well. Also aluminum. So these are things that China wants to get done. But they are economic, but they need some political solution on Iran. So that's why I think Xi says they're going to help with Iran. But ultimately, whatever access, engagement, encouragement, and even arm twisting that Beijing puts forward, it's Tehran's call. So they can help, but how much they can actually deliver, we'll have to see. On the Taiwan side, the long-standing U.S. policy is to sort of look at Taiwan as something that's distinct, that they will not discuss or negotiate about Taiwan with the PRC. Maybe President Trump will change that. So far, that doesn't seem to be the case. But of course, Beijing doesn't like that kind of a situation. It has claims over Taiwan. It wants to control Taiwan. And so far, it's not been able to do that, despite the meetings with the opposition leader and so on and so forth. The fact that the PRC is still so concerned about Taiwan suggests that they do not think that they are making enough progress on their terms.
And that being said, regarding the Taiwan issue, how do you think countries like Japan or South Korea or the Philippines will be looking at this meeting?
They'll be looking at it, very closely because the thing is that Taiwan, for all the claims about internal and all that, by geography, it sits astride sea lanes that connects Japan and South Korea to Southeast Asia and South Asia and West Asia. So they would, if they needed to trade to Europe, anywhere to points west. If they needed to import, and they do import a lot of oil and gas, it has to, pass by Taiwan one side or the other. There are submarine cables pass by Taiwan one side or the other. So Taiwan's security, its ability to be sort of not dominated by the PRC is important to Korea and for Japan. And if there's any sort of conflict, of course, for the Philippines and Japan, just because of geography, they're very close by. They will be badly affected. Their trade will be disrupted. Potentially, their citizens will be put in danger. So they do want to have stability. And I think for their positions, they would rather have a Taiwan that is not dominated by Beijing.
Right, Dr. Chong, that's a fair point, and we understand that given the current geopolitical climate, it seems that all the fault lines are somehow passing through either Beijing or Washington. And having said that, now coming back to what you said about the Strait of Hormuz, we understand that Beijing, has had a lot of strategic benefit that it has been reaping from its alliance with Iran. But we also know that China desperately needs the Hormuz Strait to open up to stabilize the energy markets. So at what point might, China's economic interests trump its strategic alignment with Iran?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the PRC historically has gotten quite a lot from Iran. What's been fairly interesting is as the conflict started, the PRC side has actually not been as supportive of Iran as you might otherwise imagine when they talk about all the strategic comprehensive partnerships and all that. So I think there are a couple of things to note here. I mean, the relationship with Iran was a way to secure oil and gas. That remains important. However, when it comes to the current crisis, the current conflict, I mean, the U.S. side has demanded a regime change, a destruction of Iran's navy. That's not something that I think the PRC can deliver. That's something that Tehran has to decide on. And I don't think they have a big interest in those kinds of things. When the PRC says no nuclear weapons for Iran, sure, I think for the PRC, if that mollifies the U.S., they'd be happy to say that. But for Iran, when it comes to their own regime and their own sort of thinking about their own regime security, I don't think any amount of sort of encouragement from Beijing is going to, fundamentally change their core concerns.
And then in what ways do you think, China or Trump what kind of ways would Trump want China to help in getting the Strait of Hormuz opened?
Yeah, that's a great question because there's not been really any specifics on it. So I suppose the U.S. side is hoping that the PRC side can encourage the Iranian side to back down. But I don't see how the Iranian side will easily back down if there's no guarantee for their security. They clearly don't want to be bombed again. They don't want to be attacked again. And they will use whatever leverage they can, including the Strait of Hormuz, to that effect. So I suppose it comes down to what Beijing thinks that they can offer to Tehran, but Iran is pretty far from the PRC. They don't share a contiguous border, so it's going to be pretty challenging in terms of what Beijing can deliver. I mean, they could offer some sort of political guarantee. They could offer some sort of economic or rebuilding assistance, but that all rests on having the security environment stabilize.
Right, and just by the virtue of us having that give and take conversation, do you think that, President Trump, it's no doubt he has returned to a very different Beijing than 2017, and analysts have been arguing that Washington is strategically and also economically in a much more tighter spot, which has somehow shifted the balance of leverage and power in China's favor and also by extension to Iran. Would you agree with that?
So what I would say is that the shock which Beijing had responded to the Trump tariffs during his first term, that's not there. They believe that they have a way of handling a lot of this. So we saw the rare earth threats that they put on the U.S., getting the Trump administration to back down a little bit. And I suppose the PRC shows that it has a lot of technical prowess. But the fact that both sides are talking in relatively conciliatory terms suggests to me that both Beijing and Washington don't find any way that they can get some sort of strategic advantage, right? So they may have sort of tactical advantages on some point or the other, but to really push the other side to change their fundamental positions, I think neither side is confident that they can do it. And if they themselves make any compromise, they might decide to renege later if they think they can better their position. How this relates to Iran, I think the logic is that, if you get some sort of movement on talks with Iran through Beijing, that might be possible. But, there's the question of whether Beijing will abide by it if they think circumstances change. And on the Trump side, on the other side, they think that if they can, improve their situation regardless of what Beijing does, they could renege as well. So that sort of, stalemate between the two, it's not so much a U.S. advantage anymore, but they've, basically, I think, have a lock on each other's position, and there's going to be more difficulty in terms of movement.
Understand, Dr. Chong. Of course, both the countries do need something out of the other. And of course, we'll be looking at if we get a deal. It will be a big win for Trump if he does that. But of course, we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this tea talk. We can wait and see for that. But thank you so much, Dr. Chong, for joining us and giving your perspective on this very big global event, we can call it. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, and moving on, Israeli nationalists, they swept through the narrow streets of Jerusalem's Old City on Thursday.
Absolutely, and this is while chanting anti-Palestinian slogans during the annual Jerusalem Day March. While many Palestinian residents remained barricaded indoors, the parade, which is organized annually in Jerusalem to celebrate what Israeli authorities call the reunification of Jerusalem, following Israel's capture and annexation of East Jerusalem in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. The annexation of East Jerusalem, home to a predominantly Palestinian population, is not recognized by the United Nations. The parade also saw participation of Israeli far-right ministers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich.
Happy Jerusalem Day. Today, we raised the flag on the Temple Mount. Thank God we had the quietest Ramadan, and we will continue and continue. Death to terrorists and more laws and more good things for the sake of this people. Happy Jerusalem Day.
The Israeli police threw up barricades around Damascus Gate area for the march, preventing Palestinians who do not live in the Old City from entering. Palestinian shopkeepers in the Old City said they were forced to close ahead of the parade. Listen to this.
Over the years, the annual march has repeatedly descended into violence, with groups of the young ultra-nationalists targeting Palestinians with racist chants, intimidation and assaults, while Palestinians view the Jerusalem Day procession as part of a broader campaign to bolster Jewish presence across the city to their detriment. And they have long sought East Jerusalem as the capital for a future Palestinian state. And well, it's now time for a very short break on World DNA. We'll be coming back with more news and updates on the other side. And we leave you with some images that have been drawing attention around the world, from conflict zones to powerful protests. Come right back. Stay tuned.
alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Two superpowers, two dealmakers. Trump and Xi face to face. From trade wars to Tehran, tech wars to Taiwan. Live reports from the ground. Expert analysis from across the world.
So even over in that delegation.
Who has the cards? On the high stakes, high risk meet. Trump-Xi meeting. Special coverage. Only on WION. WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
From the global return of BTS to the big talkers at Cannes 2026, we take you to French Riviera Plus. Fasten your seatbelts as we look at the legacy of Top Gun and the excitement around Top Gun 3. And join us for an exclusive chat with the team of Glory. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
For joining us on World DNA. Let's begin with the headlines.
Donald Trump to seek trade deals with Chinese President Xi Jinping in their final summit talks today, targeting sectors like agriculture, aviation and artificial intelligence. Says China voiced interest in buying US oil and soybeans.
Donald Trump says Chinese President Xi Jinping assured him that China will not supply military equipment to Iran, calling it a big statement, and adding that Beijing would like to continue purchasing Iranian oil.
Prime Minister Modi to embark on five-nation tour today, beginning with a visit to UAE, followed by Netherlands, Sweden, Norway and Italy, to strengthen India's strategic and economic ties amid global geopolitical and energy challenges.
Hezbollah targets Israeli troops near the Lebanon border with a drone, injuring several civilians as Lebanon and Israel hold a new round of direct talks in Washington.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz says Russia is banking on escalation rather than negotiation, after heavy Russian strikes on Kyiv killed at least 21 people. He adds that Ukraine and its partners are ready for peace talks.
CIA Director John Ratcliffe meets with Cuban officials in Havana, Havana to improve dialogue amid a worsening crisis in U.S.-Cuba relations as the island struggles with power outages and an oil shortage caused by President Trump's fuel blockade.
UN mission says gang violence in suburbs of Haiti's capital leaves at least 78 people dead and 66 injured since May 9th. Clashes also claim civilian lives, including women and a young girl. The ongoing violence has displaced 5,300 people.
Bitcoin surges above $82,000 after the Senate Banking Committee advanced the landmark Crypto Clarity Act. The committee voted 15-9 to send the landmark crypto market structure bill to a full Senate vote next.
Well, US President Donald Trump says that President Xi Jinping has offered China's help to open the Strait of Hormuz.
And as well as pledged not to send military equipment to aid Iran. The American leader told Fox News that President Xi Jinping told him China would like to help in negotiating an end to the Iran war. Listen to this.
President Xi would like to see a deal made. He would like to see a deal made. And he did offer, he said, if I can be of any help at all, I would like to be of help. Because,
he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. And look, anybody that buys that much oil has obviously got some kind of a relationship with him. But he said, I would love to be of help. If I can be of any help whatsoever, he'd like to see the Hormuz Strait open. He said, if I could be of any help whatsoever, I would like to help.
Now, when asked about China's support to Iran, President Trump said that the Chinese leader had assured him that Beijing would not send military equipment to Iran.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent separately told CNBC that China would use its influence with Iran to help reopen the strait. He said that China had a greater stake in reopening Hormuz than the U.S. due to its dependence on West Asian oil supplies.
Now, a White House official said that Trump and Xi agreed during their talks that the strait must remain open to ensure the free flow of energy.
Now, taking to a social media X, the White House posted a picture from the meeting between the two countries. The post claimed that China has strongly opposed the militarization in the Strait of Hormuz and agrees with the U.S. that both Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon.
However, the Chinese state media did not specifically mention the Strait of Hormuz as a topic of discussion between the two leaders. State news agency Xinhua said that it only said that Trump and Xi exchanged views on major international and regional issues, including the Middle East situation.
Now, of course, this comes as U.S. President Donald Trump is now set to focus on trade and Iran on the final day of his China visit. And Trump, of course, is aiming to secure some business agreements across sectors that includes agriculture, aviation, as well as AI.
Absolutely, and we understand that all eyes right now are on Beijing, where the world's two largest economies are meeting for this summit, and of course a lot rides on this final day. And US President Donald Trump, and this is the big headline, it has said that President Xi Jinping has now offered China's help to open the Strait of Hormuz and has pledged not to send the military equipment aid to Iran. And this is of course implicit because we understood that even though it was not officially stated, but the Iran war has been one of the top agendas that Washington wanted Beijing's help on.
Absolutely, considering the fact that, of course, even Scott Bessent saying that, of course, China has a lot at stake when it comes to Strait of Hormuz rather than U.S. at this point. So having Trump saying that, of course, China has agreed to not send weapons to Iran happens to be a big statement coming from Trump at this point. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what kind of other trade agreements they will agree upon. As of now, well, we'll have to wait and see when that happens. Well, to give us more details, our correspondent Zhu is now joining live from Beijing. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, from China's perspective, I would ask you, what has been the most concrete outcome of the talk so far, according to you?
Thank you for having me. So in this landmark meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump, the two heads of states agreed on a new vision of building a constructive China-US relationship of strategic stability. This is one of the most concrete outcomes. This framework is expected to provide strategic guidance for China-US relations over the next 3 years and beyond. And during the talks of the 2 hours at the Great Hall of the People, President Xi said he looks forward to working with the US president to set the course and steer the giant ship of China-US relations so as to make 2026 a historic landmark year that opens up a new chapter in bilateral relations. And as China-US relations are among the most important bilateral ties in the world, facing with many intertwined changes and chaos, the two countries both stand to gain from cooperation and lose from confrontation. And the specific outcomes will be announced later today. Stay tuned.
Right, Zhu, and leading up to the summit, there was enough murmur that, the meeting would be less about major breakthroughs and more about stabilizing ties between the two nations. Now, having said that, did you see any signs of a genuine progress in US-China relations? Or so far, the messaging has been largely diplomatic signaling?
Yes, there is a genuine progress. Elaborating on the new vision, President Xi Jinping said the constructive strategic stability should be a positive stability with cooperation as the mainstay, a sound stability with moderate competition, and also a constant stability with manageable differences, and also an enduring stability with promise of peace. So guided by head of state diplomacy, China and the US have maintained overall stability. And President Xi stressed the significance for the two leaders to navigate through the complex international landscape and ensure the steady sailing forward of the giant ship of China-US relations.
And another topic, Zhu, of course, is Taiwan. It's been a flashpoint that not just the world but in Japan, South Korea, Philippines, they've all been observing this so closely. So according to you, how would you observe Xi Jinping's warning on Taiwan compared in tone and intensity with previous high-level meetings? And how do you assess Trump's reaction to that as well?
Yes, that's a very hot topic, and President Xi Jinping emphasized that Taiwan issue is the most important issue in China-US relations. If handled properly, the two countries' relationship can be maintained overall stability, and if mishandled, it could lead to clashes or even conflict, pushing the China-US relationship to a dangerous situation. So maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait is the greatest common denominator for both China and the US.
Right, and also we understand that it's no secret that Trump wanted China to, help with the Iran situation. And now President Trump has stressed that, China has promised help on Iran and Hormuz, but Chinese official media is still silent about it. What is it signaling, Zhu?
Yeah, the Strait of Hormuz is an important international channel for goods and energy trade. Maintaining security, stability, and smooth passage in the region serves the common interests of the international community. And it is also something China has been actively working on. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Jiakun has stated that the root cause of disruptions in the strait navigation is the conflict involving Iran, and the solution lies in a swift ceasefire. All parties should remain calm and exercise restraint. So China is willing to continue playing a positive and constructive role. Additionally, China is willing to work with all sides to safeguard those energy security and the stability of supply chains. However, to fundamentally solve the problem, the priority should be to promote the restoration of peace and stability in the Gulf and the broader Middle East region. Back to you.
Right, of course, this has been a high-stakes, summit, and there's still sparse detail to understand a definitive direction towards which, the summit is going. But for now, thank you so much, Zhu, for getting us all those details.
All right, let's shift our focus to the Russia-Ukraine war. Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, is reeling from one of the deadliest Russian air assaults in recent months, and officials say the death toll has climbed to at least 21 people.
And this includes 3 children, and after Moscow launched a massive overnight barrage of drones and missiles on the city. Now, Ukraine's Air Force reported that Russia launched 675 drones and 56 missiles targeting mainly Kyiv. Air defense units intercepted 652 drones and 41 missiles, but several ballistic missiles penetrated defenses, striking residential areas and civilian infrastructure.
President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that 20 sites were hit, including homes, a school, a veterinary clinic, underscoring the toll on civilian life despite the high interception rate. Ukraine's State Emergency Service reported that rescuers are working round the clock in the Donetsk district, clearing rubble and searching for survivors in damaged buildings.
Now, Ukraine's allies, including the United Kingdom, Estonia, Latvia, Finland, the Netherlands, Moldova and Slovakia, have strongly condemned the deadly strikes on Kyiv. European leaders joined in denouncing the assault. French President Emmanuel Macron said Russia's targeting of civilians reveals weakness and not strength. Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen accused Moscow of openly mocking international peace efforts.
The Russian strikes also left civilians wounded in Odessa, Kherson and Kharkiv. Ukraine reported intercepting 94% of drones and 73% of missiles launched. A video released by the United Nations on Thursday had captured the moment UN aid vehicles came under drone fire while delivering assistance in Kherson, that is in southern Ukraine. And despite the attack, the convoy continued its mission with local authorities before a second drone hit another vehicle, forcing the team to evacuate with assistance from local officials.
And now shifting our focus to India, the Delhi High Court has passed a split order in the excise policy case involving former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal.
Now, the presiding judge, Justice Swarna Kanta Sharma, has initiated contempt proceedings against Kejriwal and several others. And at the same time, she has rescued herself from hearing the main excise policy case. Justice Sharma said that she would no longer hear the excise policy case, that it would be transferred to another bench. She further added that the contempt proceedings will continue as the issue relates to remarks and public posts being made against the court itself. The judge noted that recent social media content posted the AAP leaders crossed acceptable limits.
Now, along with Kejriwal, the contempt proceedings also include several other political leaders, and all of them are linked to statements and content shared in connection with the excise policy case.
Now, Kejriwal and other accused had earlier expressed concerns over Justice Sharma hearing the matter. They argue that they would not get a fair hearing and had even sought her recusal from the case. Now, following that, Kejriwal made public remarks on social media platform X, saying that the truth has won.
Right, and the controversy around the case has been building for some time now. The excise policy case itself has been under judicial review following a Centre Bureau of Investigation probe, and the High Court is now expected to continue hearing the main case through a different bench.
There has been a major disclosure from the President Donald Trump's financial activity during the March quarter.
And according to a federal ethics disclosure document, Trump reported a staggering 3,642 trades involving publicly listed companies between January 1st and March 31st. Now, the filing has immediately triggered political scrutiny and renewed debate over ethics and potential conflicts of interest at the highest level of power in Washington.
Now, the latest filing reveals an unusually high volume of activity over just 3 months, averaging nearly 40 trades every single day. Trump also reported hundreds of stock sales ranging from $15,000 to up to $25 million. And according to the Correspondence letter, individual purchases of NVIDIA, Microsoft, Broadcom, Amazon, Apple, and others ranged from $1 million to $5 million in disclosed value. In the $500,000 to $1 million range, stock trades included AMD, Goldman Sachs, Alphabet, Airbnb, DoorDash, Micron, Stryker, and others.
Now, US presidents are not explicitly forbidden by law from trading stocks while in office, but they are subject to conflict of interest statutes, and historically, most presidents over the past 50 years have placed their investments into a blind trust, or they've divested to avoid ethical issues and legal ramifications. From Bill Clinton to George W. Bush and Barack Obama to Joe Biden, traditionally they have used blind trust to manage assets. They separated themselves from daily investment decisions.
While Trump's disclosure document by itself does not indicate any wrongdoing, critics argue that such intense market participation by a sitting president raises serious questions.
Now, they question Trump's access to sensitive information and possible influence over market-moving decisions through policy. Supporters of the president, however, maintain that the trades were fully disclosed under federal law and were within existing legal frameworks. And they insist the filings demonstrate compliance, not misconduct.
The disclosure comes at a politically sensitive moment, with the midterm election cycle already heating up and financial ethics expected to become a central campaign issue. Democrats are now calling for deeper scrutiny into the president's trading activity.
Financial analysts say that the sheer scale of the transactions is rare for any senior public official, especially a president. As questions mount over ethics and accountability in American politics, this latest filing is certain to intensify the debate surrounding money, power, and transparency in the world's largest economy. Meta and Google have faced criticism after a Reuters report revealed that they funded children's organizations to promote healthier technology habits.
And as well, simultaneously operating apps accused of keeping young users hooked online. Now, according to a report, Meta and Google worked with well-known children's brands, including Sesame Street, the Girl Scouts, and Highlights magazine. The partnerships were designed to teach children and parents how to use technology in moderation. Using colorful magazines, educational videos, songs, and popular characters, the organizations delivered lessons about responsible screen use to hundreds of thousands of families.
Now, Reuters reviewed thousands of pages of internal documents, along with company-sponsored lessons and educational materials. The report says that Meta began building partnerships with outside organizations several years ago. As criticism of social media's effect on young users, it continued to grow simultaneously. Critics argue that the partnerships created a contradiction, with technology companies promoting digital well-being while also operating platforms which are accused of encouraging addictive use.
The report says the campaigns particularly targeted younger children, including those under the age of 12, and the issue comes as Meta and Google continue to face multiple lawsuits accusing their platforms of harming youth mental health.
And the first case to reach trial resulted in a $6 million judgment against the two companies. Critics also argue that Meta and Google generate billions of dollars in advertising revenue from businesses targeting minors. They say that financial incentives makes it difficult for the companies to provide unbiased guidance about screen use and social media habits.
Yannick Sinner has created history on his way to the semifinals of the Rome Masters.
The world number one has become the first player ever to win 32 consecutive matches at ATP Masters 1000 level, breaking the previous record of 31, which was set by Novak Djokovic back in 2011.
Now, it was a straightforward win for the Italian, who has looked unplayable in recent months. Now, Sinner, who breezed past compatriot Andrea Pellegrino in the previous round, took just 38 minutes to wrap up the first set 6-2 against Andrei Rublev. He continued to dominate the former world number 5 and seal the match 6-2, 6-4 in 1 hour and 31 minutes. Now, the result was hardly surprising given the extraordinary run Sinner has been on. To underline his dominance, he has dropped just 2 sets during this 32-match winning streak.
I don't play, for records. I play just for my own story, and obviously in the same time it means a lot to me. But tomorrow is another day, another opponent, a different opponent. We're gonna play in different conditions. It's gonna be night match, so let's see. But now for me the highest priority is to trying to recover as much as I can physically, and then we'll see how it goes. And at the same time, and also emotionally, it takes a lot, playing here at home, and but in the same time, I definitely try to do my best, and then we'll see how it goes.
Well, Sinner's last defeat at this level came in Shanghai Masters in 2025 when he was forced to retire during his third round match. His record-breaking run began at the Paris Masters last November, and since then he has continued to rewrite the record books.
In March, Sinner became the first player since Roger Federer in 2017 to complete the Sunshine Double, and that is winning both Indian Wells and the Miami Masters. He's the first player to achieve the feat without dropping a set. Earlier this month, he also became the first player ever to win 5 consecutive Masters 1000 titles after triumphing in Madrid. And now a title run in Rome in front of his home fans would make Sinner only the second man after Djokovic to complete the career Golden Masters, and that is winning all 9 ATP Masters 1000 events. Well, that's on World in it. From me, Joseph and my colleague Disha Bisla's side. News and updates will continue on the other side. You're watching Beyond World is One. Do stay tuned.
In this rapidly changing world, is your health keeping pace? Best practices and breakthroughs busting the hype with real insights. The timeless power of yoga and ancient healing. Good food, good mood. Small steps, big impact. Your health matters. Only on WION World is One. Because nothing matters more.
Two superpowers, two dealmakers. Trump and Xi face to face. From trade wars to Tehran, tech wars to Taiwan. Live reports from the ground. Expert analysis from across the world.
So even over years in that delegation.
Who has the cards? On the high stakes, high risk meet. Trump-Xi meeting. Special coverage. Only on WION.
From the global return of BTS to the big talkers at Cannes 2026, we take you to French Riviera Plus. Fasten your seatbelts as we look at the legacy of Top Gun and the excitement around Top Gun 3. And join us for an exclusive chat with the team of Glory. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Get the latest updates.
Destroy their
Breaking
missiles
news.
and raise their...
Credible, clear, continuous. Experts across aisles. Diverse voices, one platform. Beyond World is One.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One. I'm Adya Juneja and this is Speed News. Let's start with all the stories making headlines today. US President Donald Trump says Chinese President Xi Jinping assured him that China will not supply military equipment to Iran. Calling it a big statement, he added that Xi emphasized China's reliance on Iranian oil and its desire to keep buying petroleum, while also expressing concerns over tolls being charged in the Strait of Hormuz. US President Donald Trump says China has expressed interest in purchasing American oil and soybeans. The announcement came after his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping during a state visit to Beijing. China, the key customer of Iranian oil, bought small amounts of US oil before. Trump imposed tariffs last year and has sharply slowed down purchases of US soybeans, turning instead to Brazil. Hundreds of Israeli nationalists marched through Jerusalem's Old City during the annual Jerusalem Day event, with some chanting anti-Arab slogans as many Palestinian residents stay indoors. The procession marked Israel's capture of East Jerusalem in the year 1967. Demonstrators waved flags and filled the streets near the Old City, while police maintained a heavy presence to prevent any clashes. The march underscored ongoing tensions in Jerusalem as official calls for unity contrasted sharply with the inflammatory chants heard during the event. Iraq's new Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi was sworn in on Thursday but entered office with only a partial cabinet after Parliament failed to agree on key posts, including the interior and defense portfolios. Lawmakers approved 14 ministers, naming Basim Mohammed as oil minister and retaining Fuad Hussein as foreign minister. Zaidi, a multimillionaire in his 40s with business interests in banking and Iraq's vast government food basket program, but he now faces daunting challenges including disarming Iran-backed militias, tackling entrenched corruption and balancing Iraq's ties between Washington and Tehran. Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, is reeling from one of the deadliest Russian aerial assaults in recent months. Officials say the death toll has climbed to at least 21 people, including 3 children, after Moscow launched a massive overnight barrage of drones and missiles on the city. Ukraine's Air Force reported that Russia launched 675 drones and 56 missiles, targeting mainly Kyiv. Air defense units intercepted 652 drones and 41 missiles, but several ballistic missiles penetrated defenses, striking residential areas and civilian infrastructure. Demonstrators gathered outside the South Carolina State House to protest proposed changes to congressional district maps as lawmakers consider redistricting plans that critics say could shift political power. Residents and activists accuse lawmakers of attempting to manipulate district boundaries for partisan advantage, calling it a power grab and an effort to influence election outcomes. Bolivia's political crisis deepened on Thursday as miners hurled firecrackers and clashed with police in La Paz, demanding President Rodrigo Paz's resignation. Protesters attempted to storm the vice president's office. Former President Jorge Tuto Quiroga warned the country was at a critical moment with democratic institutions under severe strain. The unrest marks an escalation of weeks of upheaval as miners reject dialogue and insist on the president's immediate departure. Cuban Energy Minister announced on state television that the oil reserves sent by Russia in March have now run out. Well, he declared the island has absolutely no fuel, no diesel left in its reserves, stressing that the only remaining resource is associated gas from domestic wells. The remarks highlight the severity of Cuba's energy shortage. In Santiago de Cuba, residents endured a blackout, spending more time outdoors for natural light. Streets were semi-deserted, traffic lights out, and some families resorted to cooking with charcoal. The outage underscores the deepening crisis which authorities blame on the US blockade. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is embarking on a 5-nation tour today, beginning with the United Arab Emirates before travelling to the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway and Italy. The trip is aimed at strengthening India's strategic and economic ties amid global geopolitical and energy challenges. The leaders are expected to discuss cooperation on trade, investment, clean energy and regional security as New Delhi seeks to deepen partnerships across Europe and the West Asia. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has appointed James Murray as the country's new health minister. Well, the move follows the resignation of Wes Streeting, who stepped down earlier in the day. Murray, a Labour MP, takes on the role at a critical time for the government as the National Health Service continues to face mounting pressures over staffing, wait lists and funding. The appointment underscores Starmer's efforts to maintain stability in his cabinet while addressing one of the most pressing issues for the British public. Streeting's departure marks a significant shift in the health portfolio, with Murray now tasked with steering policy and delivering on promises to improve patient care and reduce NHS backlogs. Solomon Islands lawmakers have elected opposition leader Matthew Whale as the country's new Prime Minister following a parliamentary vote on Friday. Matthew Whale secured 26 out of 49 votes in a secret ballot, officially confirmed by Governor-General David Tivakapu outside Parliament, while he replaces former Prime Minister Jeremiah Manele, who was removed earlier this month in a no-confidence motion. Whale said the country faces a difficult time amid global geopolitical tensions and urged national unity, calling on young people to play a role in the nation's development. At least 78 people have been killed and 66 wounded in recent gang clashes in the suburbs of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, since a week, according to the United Nations. The violence in Sete-Soule and Couva de Bouquet has displaced more than 5,000 people, forcing many families to flee their homes. Doctors Without Borders say ongoing gun battles have overwhelmed hospitals and forced medical facilities to suspend operations. Haiti continues to face worsening gang violence as the new multinational anti-gang force begins deployment in the country. The Ecuadorian Defense Ministry has released footage of armed forces moving into Machala, a border city with Peru, said to be under narco control. Soldiers were seen dismantling structures linked to organized crime, while helicopters and drones flew over Puerto Bolívar, Machala port. Defense Minister Giancarlo Lofredo announced a massive operation by air, sea and land, saying Puerto Bolívar will be completely surrounded and swept block by block, covering more than 1,600 homes to reclaim the area from organized armed groups. In Chile, police fired water cannons to disperse students marching against proposed education budget course outside La Moneda Palace. The protest was organized by associations of high school and university students opposing cuts to public education programs announced by the Ministry of Finance. Parents and students condemned President Jose Antonio Cast's plan, warning that cuts could eliminate the school meals program, which supports over 1 million vulnerable children. University students also voiced concerns, insisting that education must be protected and rejecting the government's austerity push. The protest highlighted growing tensions as caste pursues reforms aimed at reducing public spending while lowering corporate taxes. Four people have been killed after a medical evacuation aircraft crashed in a remote mountainous area near Ruidoso, New Mexico on Thursday. The aircraft went down in the Caption Mountains, triggering a wildfire that spread across approximately 35 acres of forested land. Emergency crews confirmed that all four occupants on board were fatally injured, while investigators are working to determine the cause of the crash. Hawaii's Kilauea volcano showed increased activity, with scientists warning it could enter a new eruptive phase within hours. After a recent pause, one of the active figures began intermittently ejecting molten lava during the morning, with some eruptions producing lava fountains reaching over 1,000 feet. Japan is considering exporting surface-to-ship missiles to Philippines as part of its most assertive regional security strategy. This comes following major overhaul of export rules, which allows sales of warships, missiles and other weapons abroad. If approved, the deal would mark a major shift in Japan's defense posture, strengthening ties with Manila and reshaping the balance of power in Asia. India has increased petrol and diesel prices by 3 rupees per litre across the country amid rising global crude oil prices, which is linked to the ongoing West Asia conflict. In Delhi, petrol now costs 97 rupees 77 paise per litre, while diesel has risen to 90 rupees 67 paise. Brent crude continues to trade above $100 per barrel as tensions around the Strait of Hormuz disrupt global energy markets. The government says India has enough fuel stocks and there is no shortage, even as it urges fuel conservation during the ongoing global energy crisis. South Korea's Kospi Index crossed the 8,000 mark for the first time, driven by a massive rally in AI-related technology stocks and semiconductor giants like Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix. The benchmark index has surged from around 2,600 points just a year ago, as global demand for AI data centers boosts chip sales and company earnings. Samsung shares are up nearly 190% in 6 months, while SK Hynix has gained over 220%, with investors betting big on the future of artificial intelligence. Going back to oil now, oil prices climbed on Friday as fears over ship attacks and seizures near the Strait of Hormuz continued to rattle global energy markets. Brent rose above $106 a barrel, while crude crossed $101, even as Iran said around 30 vessels had passed through the strategic shipping route. Concerns remain high after reports of an Iranian vessel seizure near the UAE and the sinking of an Indian cargo ship off Oman, with traders warning that tight oil supply is still driving prices higher. Gold prices fell to a more than 1 week low and were headed for a weekly loss as rising oil prices fueled fears of higher inflation and prolonged interest rates. Spot gold dropped nearly 2% this week amid continued tensions around the Strait of Hormuz. Investors are now closely watching talks between US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping as markets look for signals on global trade and geopolitical stability. Japan will form a public-private working group this week to address cybersecurity risks to the financial system posed by Anthropic's new AI model Mythos. The group will bring together 36 entities including major banks, the Bank of Japan, regulators and tech firms including Anthropic and OpenAI. The initiative aims to build a shared understanding of AI-driven threats and develop response strategies for the financial sector with inputs from the US government. The working group is expected to hold its first meeting on Thursday and will be chaired by Mizuho Financial Group's Chief Information Security Officer Osamu Terai. Britain's Competition and Markets Authority has launched a formal investigation into Microsoft's dominance in the business software market under its new strategic market status powers. The regulator will examine whether the bundling of key products like Windows, Microsoft Office applications, Teams, Copilot and other enterprise tools reduces competition and makes it harder for rival companies to compete in the UK market. The probe will also study Microsoft's strong position in cloud computing and whether its licensing practices create barriers for businesses trying to switch to alternative providers. Anthropic and the Gates Foundation have announced a $200 million partnership to support public good applications of artificial intelligence across health, education and scientific research over the next 4 years. The funding will be split between direct financial giants from the Gates Foundation and technical support from Anthropic, including cloud AI usage credits and engineering expertise. The initiative aims to ensure AI benefits underserved regions and addresses concerns that advanced technologies could widen inequality or remain limited to wealthy markets. The United States and China held discussions in Beijing on artificial intelligence safety guardrails, agreeing to work together and towards a protocol of best practices aimed at preventing misuse of advanced AI systems by non-state and criminal actors. US officials emphasized that maintaining America's lead in AI was a key priority, while ensuring innovation was not slowed by over-regulation. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the focus was on balancing innovation with strong safety standards and risk controls. Yannick Sinner has created history on his way to the semi-finals of the Rome Masters. The world number one has become the first player to win 32 consecutive matches at ATP Masters 1000 level, breaking the previous record of 31 set by Novak Djokovic back in 2011. Up against former world number 5 Andrei Rublev, Sinner took just 38 minutes to wrap up the first set. He continued to dominate the Russian and sealed the match 6-2, 6-4 in 91 minutes. Iran Football Federation Chief Mehdi Taj says they will seek assurances from FIFA when the two sides meet on Saturday. The development comes as Iran waits to receive visas ahead of the FIFA World Cup, which begins in less than a month. Both the US and Canada classify the IRGC as a terrorist organization and have made it clear they will not admit people with links to it. Taj, who himself served in the IRGC, had earlier said Iran would not take part in the World Cup if FIFA could not guarantee respect for the country's institutions in the US. Legendary manager Carlo Ancelotti will remain in charge of the Brazilian national football team until 2030. The Italian manager has signaled a new 4-year contract with the Selecao. Ancelotti took over as Brazil's coach last year. The 66-year-old has overseen 10 matches, winning 5, drawing 2 and losing 3. He will lead the 5-time World Cup champions at the upcoming FIFA World Cup, where Brazil have been drawn in Group C. The Eurovision Song Contest has entered its final stages following the recent booing of the Israeli contestant. Austrian authorities have now deployed a multi-layered security operation. All entrance points have included detection dogs and specialized units. The force includes Cobra counter-terror units, drone defense teams. Nearly 16,000 staff members have been stationed after rigorous vetting to ensure the safety of the 30,000 fans expected to descend upon the city. The highly anticipated K-drama See You at Work Tomorrow is officially making its international debut. The series follows the high-stakes lives of marketing executives who find that the only thing more complicated than a quarterly budget is a secret office attraction. Starring Park Ji-hyun, this drama is expected to release on June 22nd. Pop sensation Dua Lipa has officially announced Dua Lipa Live from Mexico, a dual-release concert film and live album that captures the high-octane energy of her performance in Mexico City. The project promises to showcase the reimagined versions of her biggest hits, featuring the vibrant choreography and radical optimism aesthetic that have defined her current era. The red carpet glowed with a different kind of brilliance last night as icons like Demi Moore and Diane Kruger led the charge at the annual Women in Cinema Gala. The event, which celebrates the trailblazing achievements of women behind and in front of the camera, saw a gathering of Hollywood's most influential voices. Moore joined Kruger and a host of international filmmakers to discuss the evolving landscape of the industry. Rock pioneers Anne and Nancy Wilson of Heart were officially inducted and honored at this year's Grammy Hall of Fame Gala. The sisters, who broke through the glass ceiling of 70s rock with powerhouse vocals, received a standing ovation from their peers. The gala featured tribute performances of classics like Barracuda and Alone. Makers of Pati Patni Aur Wo Do have released another trailer of the film directed by Mudassar Aziz. The film reboots the storyline with an all-new ensemble cast. Well, this time Ayushmann Khurrana steps into the shoes of Prajapati Pandey. Finds himself hilariously entangled with not one but three leading ladies, Sara Ali Khan, Vamika Gabbi and Rakul Preet Singh. The film looks ready to deliver the ultimate modern relationship roller coaster when it hits cinemas on May 15th. Well, that is it in this edition. News and updates will continue on the other side. Keep watching WION The World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Two superpowers, two dealmakers. Trump and Xi face to face. From trade wars to Tehran, tech wars to Taiwan.
Live reports from the ground. Expert analysis from across the world.
So even over in that delegation.
Who has the cards? On the high stakes, high risk meet. Trump-Xi meeting. Special coverage. Only on WION. Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
From the global return of BTS to the big talkers at Cannes 2026, we take you to French Riviera Plus. Fasten your seatbelts as we look at the legacy of Top Gun and the excitement around Top Gun 3. And join us for an exclusive chat with the team of Glory. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
Campaigns, elections, alliances, controversies, and power play. Stories that analyze global and domestic politics. A dedicated show with varied perspectives, expert take, citizens' voices, detailed ground reports, and in-depth coverage from political corridors of the world. This is Race to Power, only on WION.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
Vielleicht nur als Imposant.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching WION World is One with me, Diksha Bisla. Let's start with the headlines. Donald Trump meets with Xi Jinping in Beijing for a second and final day of the talks, hoping to secure trade wins. Xi greets Trump with a handshake at gardens of Zhongnanhai, the central leadership compound next to Chinese capital's Forbidden City. Donald Trump says China has expressed interest in buying US oil and soybeans after his meeting with Xi Jinping in Beijing, reversing a slowdown in purchases caused by last year's tariffs. Donald Trump says pursuing Iran's enriched uranium is largely for political optics, though he feels he would feel better obtaining it, and he also suggested bombing Tehran is an alternative in remarks to Fox News during his China visit. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says US policy towards Taiwan remains unchanged after Trump's meeting with Xi Jinping, warning that any disruption over Taiwan could have consequences for the world and for both the countries. Heated confrontation broke out between US journalists and Chinese security personnel at Beijing's Great Hall of People in Beijing, while reporters were attempting to enter the venue before the summit began on Thursday. Ukrainian strikes on Russia's Ryazan region killed 3 people and injured at least 12 others, including children, according to the regional governor. Japan considers exporting surface-to-ship missiles to Philippines as part of its more assertive regional security strategy, following major overhaul of export rules which allow sales of warships, missiles and other weapons abroad. Protests against Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz intensify as public workers, indigenous groups and others clash with police and blocked roads, demanding wage increases and Paz's resignation amid a severe economic crisis. India hikes fuel prices on Friday, with petrol and diesel increasing by over 3 rupees per litre. The revision marks the first retail price change in 4 years, adding fresh pressure on households and transport costs amid an already elevated inflation and global oil market volatility. US President Donald Trump is meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in Beijing for a second and final day of the talks. And Trump is aiming to secure business agreements across sectors including agriculture, aviation and AI. But the US president will also be seeking geopolitical progress, and particularly on the West Asia conflict. Chinese President Xi Jinping is hosting Trump at Zhongnanhai, the leadership's compound of the ruling Communist Party in Beijing. Only a handful of American leaders have ever stepped into the highly guarded headquarters. Richard Nixon met with Mao Zedong at the compound in 1972, the first time an American president had visited China. President George W. Bush and Barack Obama are the other two American leaders to have visited the compound. Now, the two leaders are also expected to hold a team meeting and diplomatic lunch before Trump departs for Washington. Trade discussions are expected to dominate Friday's agenda. Now, Trump is accompanied by several top U.S. business leaders, including Tesla CEO Elon Musk and NVIDIA chief Jensen Huang.
I just want to say on behalf of all of the great delegation that we have the greatest businessmen, the biggest, I guess the best in the world. We have amazing people, and they're all with me. Every single one of them. We asked the top 30 in the world, every single one of them said yes. And I didn't want the second or the third in the company. I wanted only the top. And they're here today to pay respects to you and to China. And they look forward to trade and doing business. And it's going to be totally reciprocal on our behalf.
In his Fox News interview, Trump appeared to preview one of the major deals, claiming that China had agreed to purchase 200 big Boeing aircraft. However, shares of Boeing slipped after the comments, suggesting investors had expected a larger commitment from Beijing. Trump was given a massive red carpet welcome on his arrival and met President Xi at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. But Thursday's superpower summit was dominated by Xi Jinping's strong warning on Taiwan. While Xi described the US-China relationship as the world's most consequential, he also warned that Taiwan remains the most important issue in China-US relations and it could trigger conflict if handled improperly. Trump avoided commenting publicly on Taiwan on Thursday, but US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent later told CNBC that the president would speak further on the matter in the coming days. Trump did address another major flashpoint, however, which is the conflict involving Iran. Speaking to Fox News, Trump said that she had effectively assured him that China was not preparing to provide military assistance to Tehran.
We discussed it. I mean, when you say support, they're not fighting a war with us or anything.
No.
He said he's not going to give military equipment. That's a big statement. He said that today. That's a big statement. He said that strongly. But at the same time, he said, you know, they buy a lot of their oil there, and they'd like to keep doing that. He'd like to see Hormuz Strait opened. I said, well, we didn't stop it. They did it, and then we stopped them. You know, sort of interesting. He joked. He said, you know, it's sort of, if they stopped it, then you stopped them. But they'd like to see it opened.
Trump also reacted to Xi's reference to the Thucydides trap, the theory that war becomes more likely when a rising power challenges an established one. In a Truth Social post early Friday, Trump said that Xi had very elegantly referred to the United States as perhaps being a declining nation. Trump claimed that Xi was referring to America before his return to office and not the current administration. Trump wrote, and I'm quoting him here, 2 years ago, we were in fact a nation in decline. Now the United States is the hottest nation anywhere in the world, and hopefully our relationship with China will be stronger and better than ever before. And to give us more details, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Listen in.
President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping wrapped up their first major day of talks in Beijing, with Iran, trade, Taiwan, and global stability topping the agenda. And now, day 2 starts. According to reports, President Trump is pressing China to help with de-escalation and relations with Iran and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. Both sides, according to the White House, agreed that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. At the same time, Xi Jinping warned that Taiwan remains the most dangerous issue in U.S.-China relations and cautioned that mishandling the issue of Taiwan could lead to a conflict. The summit so far has been very heavy on symbolism, but experts say the real goal is stabilizing relations between the world's two biggest economic powers in a period of rising global tensions. No major breakthrough yet, but both sides appear to be very focused on preventing direct confrontation while continuing strategic cooperation. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
And sharp divisions over the West Asia conflict erupted at the BRICS foreign ministers meeting in New Delhi on Thursday. Multiple reports said that Iran and the UAE clashed during closed-door sessions, exposing the deep challenges that BRICS faces in forging a common position on the crisis. These reports, quoting sources, said that there were heated exchanges between Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and UAE Minister of State for Foreign Affairs Khalifa Shaheen Al-Marar. As tensions escalated, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov intervened to calm the situation. In his address, Araghchi accused the United States and Israel of illegal aggression against Iran and urged BRICS nations to explicitly condemn their actions. He also called on the bloc to resist what he described as Western hegemony and America's sense of impunity. Listen to this.
False sense of entitlement must be shattered by all of us. Iran, therefore, calls upon BRICS member states and all responsible members of the international community to explicitly condemn violations of international law by the United States and Israel, including their illegal aggression against Iran, a member of BRICS.
The UAE minister criticized Iran over attacks on neighboring countries, according to people familiar with the discussions. Araghchi then hit back, accusing the UAE of allowing its territory to be used by the United States for attacks on Iran.
It was very strange for everyone present at the meeting that the UAE representative had no issues other than addressing the issue of war and the responses that Iran had given to the US on its soil. This was truly regrettable, and I had to explain to the members of the meeting and the BRICS countries in full that we usually do not raise these issues, but after all, everything has a limit. The UAE stood by the US and Israel in this war.
Additionally, Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs Kazem Garibabadi later issued an even more forceful statement, accusing the UAE of helping facilitate attacks against Iran and insisting Abu Dhabi must accept responsibility for its actions. Well, the sharp exchange comes amid growing tensions between Tehran and Abu Dhabi over alleged Iranian attacks on UAE energy infrastructure in recent weeks. Now, India is hosting the meeting, and it is being seen as a particularly significant one as BRICS members confront the economic fallout of the conflict, including energy supply disruptions and rising trade uncertainty. Right, in shifting focus, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has refused to resign over the Farmgate scandal that continues to haunt his presidency. As the political tensions escalate, a top official in the country's African National Congress party has thrown his weight behind Ramaphosa. ANC Secretary General has backed the South African president, saying that calls for Ramaphosa to step down are opportunistic. He said it is the party's National Executive Committee that would consider the entirety of the judgment, adding that it would not be bullied on what to do.
In terms of the judgment, there's nothing that says he must actually resign as the president of the country.
While Ramaphosa refuses to step down and maintains that he is not involved in any wrongdoing, South African opposition parties have raised a point of order, arguing that Parliament should not be continuing under this backdrop, demanding that Ramaphosa quit.
The members to go out. Can
The ANC blocked impeachment proceedings against the South African president over Farmgate in 2022. But the Constitutional Court revived the process last week. Dubbed as Farmgate, the scandal centers on a 2020 burglary at Ramaphosa's ranch, during which thieves stole bundles of cash hidden inside a sofa. Now, the scandal raised questions about how Ramaphosa acquired $580,000 in cash that he said was stolen from his farm, and why it was stuffed in furniture rather than deposited in a bank. The scandal has surfaced as a major embarrassment for Ramaphosa, who came to power in 2018 on a pledge to fight corruption and clean up the image of the ANC. Meanwhile, on Thursday, Ramaphosa fired his social development minister. CCC Tolashe, the minister, was a leading member of his ANC party, and her removal from the post comes after weeks of mounting corruption claims. Tolashe is the second senior official in weeks to be pushed aside by the South African president on graft allegations after the national police chief was suspended last month.
I don't think he's here.
I've applied, I've made an application.